Welcome back to the course titled Strategic Communication for Sustainable Development. My name is Aradhana Malik and I am helping you with this course. And in the previous lecture, we discussed the psychological aspects to sustainability communication. In this, from this lecture onwards, we will actually move on to the topic of strategic communication, communication strategy, and how it relates to sustainable development. Okay. So, what is the role of the communicator in the development process? Now, based on whatever I have told you till now, you should have been able to come up with these categories yourself. But I'll just reiterate everything. Now, there is a paper by Wiggle, and I'll give you the reference to it. This paper describes 3 different roles that a communicator plays in the development process. The 3 roles are: one is the role of the strategist. The strategist's role involves scanning the social, political and economic, not economical, I'm sorry about this mistake, and economic environment for changes and new developments, and determining its influence on the organization's strategies and policies. Now, this is from the perspective of a strategic communication specialist in a corporate organization, and we will see how all of this applies to the role of a communicator in development. The strategies, a strategy is a plan for action that sets priorities and uses resources to achieve goals. So that is what a strategist does. The manager is responsible for the preparation and implementation of communication strategy and policies in clear messages to the organization stakeholders. So strategist plans, the manager executes, the technician as a third role is responsible for the physical implementation of the communication plans. Technician is the one on the front line. Technician really executes. The manager prepares, gets the organization ready, administers. The strategist plans. Okay. The model that we will discuss in this class is Steyn and Puth's model for communication, corporate communication strategy, and in the next session we will discuss how this model can be applied to sustainable development or any kind of development. Okay. According to this model, there are 3 levels at which corporate communication strategies are planned. The first level is the strategic level. In this level, the first thing that the strategist does is analyze the organization's or institution's internal environment. The first thing that is done is the analysis. What is the environment like? What is required there? Analyze corporate profile, vision, mission, culture, values, policies, etc. So you analyze how, why the organization was set up, where is it going. Analyze enterprise, corporate, business unit, functional strategies and internal stakeholder concerns. So you not only analyze from the perspective of the organization as a whole, we also analyze the business unit. We also analyze what the concerns of different stakeholders are. So we analyze at the macro and the micro level, at the large overall level and from the perspective of individual stakeholders, and we see what the organization's internal environment is like, what the organizational culture is like. The second step here is to scan and analyze the external environment, including societal values, norms and expectations. What does the society expect from the organization? What does the society expect from whatever is happening in the organization? What the organization or what the organization should give to the society. Identify and prioritize strategic external stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders outside that organization? Determine the consequences of their behavior, expectations or concerns for the organization. So how do these external stakeholders affect the organization? Identify and prioritize key strategic, social, political and societal issues. Determine their consequences or reputation risks for the organization. So find out which issues affect the organization. Identify the public and activists that emerge around key issues. Determine the consequences or reputation risks for the organization. And then feed this social intelligence into the enterprise strategy formulated at the top management or board level. So now let's apply all of this to the context of a community. We analyze the community's internal stakeholders, internal environment. What does the community want? Where is the community coming from? What are the interests of the stakeholders? Who lives in the village? Who is the village head person? Who are the children? What do the older people want? What do the farmers want? We analyze all of this. We then analyze what the village really does. What is the village known for? What is the image? What is the village identity? Identity of that village as a whole. Identity of the community as a whole. What is the community known as? And then we analyze that. Then we scan and analyze the external environment. Where does the village fit into or how does the village fit into the larger milieu? What do the neighbors say about this community? What do the other communities say about this community? Or the resources that the community has. So we formulate a picture of the identity of the organization or community. And I am talking about both things side by side. So we formulate a picture of the community, and then we find out, we take all of this social intelligence, whatever we have understood from the community, and feed it into the strategy that we will formulate for what needs to be done in the community. Okay. Functional level. So from the role of a strategist, we have found out what is going on, what we can and cannot do, how it will affect things. Now we get into the functional role. Role of the corporate communication manager in developing corporate communication strategy. The manager takes this social intelligence and describes, differentiates and prioritizes key strategic issues identified in the enterprise strategy as well as ad hoc issues. I was listening to an interview a long time back, this was in the mid-80s, about a very renowned actor by the name of Mr. Raj Kapoor. Mr. Raj Kapoor was very sick, and that was one of the first times the Indian television went around asking people what they thought of him, and they knew that he may not last very long. And so they went to his oldest son, Mr. Randhir Kapoor, and they asked him what he thought of his father. And he said, in his very classic humorous style, he said, "My father is a fire brigade, he's an ambulance, he's a policeman, he's there when nobody else can reach me. So anytime I'm in trouble, my father reaches there." And I've used this example while teaching my students about management. That is what a manager does. Ad hoc issues spring up here, there, everywhere, and a manager has to go and deal with these ad hoc issues. So things just come up. I mean, we say we plan for contingencies. We can't plan for contingencies. We can only be prepared for these unexpected events. So that is what the manager does. The manager prioritizes the issues that come out of the community and also gets prepared. Cannot plan, but prepares himself and his team to face these unexpected issues that might crop up based on the social intelligence that the manager has gathered from the community. And how do we do that? We identify the implications of each issue that we can see and each issue that we can not see, but we can project that we might see. We can, for each of the strategic stakeholders, publics, activist groups and society at large. Who's going to be affected? Who's going to talk about it? It's not only who's going to be affected, it's also the media these days. The media is very powerful and the media is very influential, and media has a lot of role to play in how we prioritize, how we do things. The media helps us become transparent in our actions. That is one big benefit. So we are constantly under the gun by the media to do things right, because somebody will point out where we are going wrong. So we have to, they are also stakeholders. Formulate the key communication themes for each issue. Decide what must be communicated to solve the problem or capitalize on the opportunity. We were talking about resource communication in one of the previous classes. So what should be communicated? Is it a problem or is it an opportunity? Set communication goals on the basis of the implications of the issues or opportunities. Decide what must be achieved within the communication. How should we communicate? So we just let the stakeholders know what we as people going into the community are going to achieve. Set communication goals in support of other organizational strategies, functional, business unit, corporate, so micro level, community level, family level, person level, family level, community level. So set communication goals. Set communication goals in support of other, integrate communication goals of all the strategies. So we decide what we want to communicate, how we want to communicate, how we want to go about solving problems, what should be communicated as a problem, what should be communicated as a strategy in the corporate sector and in the social sector. Is it a problem or is it an opportunity for us to better ourselves, to become more efficient? So that is how that is the functional level at which the strategy operates. Okay. Integrated role of the communication expert in the organization. The expert conducts an overall corporate communication channel analysis, determine which kinds of channels are best suited for the organization and for the community. If I want to go and help the one of the villages around the IIT campus learn about hygiene in the environment, I can't just go and put up posters and have videos and no. I need to possibly show people what keeping this environment clean does for them. Okay, so maybe it will be a long drawn out process. It can't be done through lectures. It has to be done by showing them. I need to first get their trust, get them to listen to me, and then go out and communicate what I think should be communicated to them. So I find out which channel will work best. In some communities, maybe the media will work better. In some communities, public communication might work better. In some communities, face-to-face, one-on-one communication might work better. Being a woman, the men in the village may not listen to me. So I may need to take a team of male activists with me if I want them to listen to me. Being a woman, children may listen to me. The elderly ladies may not listen to me. So I have to talk to them in a different manner. Maybe get the group together. Maybe get one person from the community with me first, convince her and have her convince her peers. They'll say, you're a child. I don't have white hair on my head, so they will not listen to me. I don't speak Bangla, so you'll say you're an outsider. You don't know what we are facing. So I need to possibly get a person with white hair who speaks Bengali, preferably an elderly lady, go along with me, or a person who looks old, who's got white hair, looks old, goes with me into the community, talks in the colloquial language, wears the similar clothes, sari or suit. I can't go there in jeans and talk to them. They'll not listen to me. They'll say you come from outside, you do things and then you go away and we are left with whatever we have to deal with. So those kinds of things. So overall we have to decide the channel that we will use. How will I talk to them? What will I say to them? Which mode will I use? I cannot, put up posters in English and then expect them to follow anything. No. Most of them may be illiterate. Then what do I do? So decide the channel. Develop communication policy. Determine who is allowed to communicate what to whom. I can't have everybody become an expert. I need to empower some people who will actually go into the village and do the work in the community. So, as a strategist, I cannot, yes, everybody needs to be empowered, but everybody needs to be empowered differently. And we have to preserve the social structure, social fabric of the community in doing so. Otherwise, things will be a mess. It will not be sustainable. Remember, the core here is sustainability. Whatever we do has to be ongoing. And I'm trying to discuss two things at the same time. I'm talking about the corporate communication strategy as well as the social communication strategy. Social communication strategy will vary. The hierarchy is not so well defined there. Corporate communication strategy, yes, in the corporate sector, we will, or in a well-defined organization, we'll have people who are responsible, we'll have a proper chain of command, and that is how things will be done. But I'm trying to take that and apply it to the social sector, and that's why I'm discussing this. Develop strategic communication plan for all the divisions: employee, media, community, investor, customer relations. Now in the context of community, it will be the team of activists, it will be the community head people, it will be the community themselves, it will be the media, possibly the media, it will be other stakeholders, people who are funding the effort. Everything requires money. Who would want what from the community will decide who gets to have a say. So we go back to the issue of power. It's all a mess, social sciences, any discussion in the social sciences is a mess. It's not linear. So everybody's opinions, everybody's ideas, everybody's interests need to be taken into account. Implementation or operational level, role of the corporate communication technician in developing an implementation strategy. After all, at the end of the day, the person who will be heard will be the person in the field. It will be the person who will actually go and get things done. Develop and implement communication programs, campaigns, plans, etc. Okay, so this is the integrated role. Now we have, I think, about 10 minutes, so I am going to go through the challenges to participatory communication and take you through the simplified model proposed by Steyn and Puth. Okay, now when we talk about participatory communication in a community, yes, whatever I've discussed is in the context of corporate communication strategy, but we are talking about participatory communication, we are talking about getting the community involved. We need to realize that communication is not information. Communication is sharing, being part of, or entering into dialogue. And this is the point at which I'm going to read out something that Mr. Gumucio-Dagron has proposed in his paper. So this is a paper called Playing with Fire, Power, Participation and Communication for Development by Alfonso Gumucio-Dagron. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. This has been published in a Routledge journal called Development in Practice, volume 9, number 4 and 5, June 2009, and this is from page 453 to page 465, possibly, yeah, 453 to 465. Anyway, so what I want to really read out here is, he says that analyzing the politics of development communication is playing with fire. I really like his candid style. Communication for development is a subject as tricky as development itself. This will not be the first time it has been discussed. Communication for development and social change has been around since the early 1970s. Nevertheless, and ironically, it is still considered a nuisance by many of the large development players. It makes them uncomfortable. That is what I want to stress on. He says, trying to explain communication for development and social change to decision makers involves simplifying some larger issues for them to understand the shorthand. However, even in very few words, we cannot disguise what this is about. Communication for social change is about people taking into their own hands the communication process that will allow them to make their voices heard, to establish horizontal dialogues with planners and development specialists, to take the decisions on the development issues that affect their lives, to ultimately achieve social changes for the benefit of their community. Here. Okay, so this is what participatory communication is all about. Participatory communication is not about experts going and telling the community what to do. Participatory communication is about the community understanding what it needs to do and doing it on its own. And most people don't understand it. Okay, ignorance of policy and decision makers about past and current lessons. That's another challenge. As an expert, I too have this tendency, when I'm assigned a task, I say, okay, I don't care what has been done in the past, I know the best way to do it and I will go and do it. And I know my friends and family will be very happy when they listen to this lecture, because they'll say, you finally admitted where your flaw is. Most of us do that. We go into a situation and we say, yes, I am the best person to deal with it, I know how to do it, and I am going to do it my way, without looking at what has been done in the past, without looking at what will be sustainable in the future. We just go in and try and impose our expertise on the community, and that is one of the biggest challenges to participatory communication. Okay, institutional agendas and red tape. Why am I doing it? Who will permit me to do it? I mean, we are all bound, we are all limited by the institutions that we are a part of. We are all bound by the procedures, the administrative setups that we are a part of, and that can limit participatory communication in sustainable development situations. Short-term time frames. After all, there has to be a limit. If I take on a project, there will be a limit by which there will be a deadline by which the project has to be completed. I need to submit a report. I have to be accountable for every minute I spend on that project, every penny I spend on that project. So, you know, the time frame, it can't be endless. I can't, yes, development is continuous, it's slow, but I need to see some results during my lifetime. The idealization of community, we say community is like this, community is like that. Community is a very messy affair. Community is constantly changing. Community involves a lot of people. Community refers to a lot of people with different interests, with different ideas, etc. Flawed evaluation practices, again we are still developing our evaluation practices. Lack of high level communicators with the profile of strategists. So, lack of training in the field of communication. The problem of evaluation and evidence. Who evaluates and what and how and from whose perspective? Donors will want, the donors and funders will want the project or the activity or the effort evaluated in a certain way. Implementers will want it evaluated in a certain way. Beneficiaries will say, no, that is not the way it should be done. We need the efforts evaluated from our perspective. Nothing has been done. And donor will say, I've spent, you know, crores of rupees or millions of dollars on this thing and nothing has come out. Implementer will say, what can I do? There are so many procedures, so much of paperwork to be maintained, so I can't do it within these limitations. And beneficiaries will say, okay, you've spent time and money, but what have we got out of it? So, evaluation and evidence, ultimately, out of all the efforts, who gets what out of it? The implementer will probably get a report. What does the beneficiary get? What does the donor get, and when and how? So, these are some of the challenges to participatory communication. So, we say, okay, let's not let the community participate, we'll tell the community what to do. That's not the way it works. It's very murky, it's very complex, and that is what I'm trying to communicate through this series of lectures. Let's really realize the mess that we are in, or the complexity that we are dealing with when we talk about sustainability communication. Now, I would like to really stop this lecture here and give you a very brief snippet about how this can be applied in the non-profit or in the development sector in another short lecture. So, thank you very much for listening.